Well, welcome back to the channel. One of my prior videos, I was talking about a T18 that I'm going to be putting in a Jeep CJ7. And this T18, give you a shot here of the model number, was from a Jeep J Series truck, which has a longer, now removed, input shaft in it. And so I bought the kit from Parts Mike to put the shorter input shaft in. So just to show you here, you can see the difference. This is the J Series input shaft that's been removed with the bearing, and the new Parts Mike shorter input shaft that'll fit a CJ7 has been, well, I don't want to say it's been installed because it really hasn't been, but it's almost been installed 3 times. So we'll get to that in a minute. But to part of this video, really what I want to do is, actually, this is the first time I've done anything like this. So I really want to just, I guess, educate folks on some of the mistakes that I've made. I'm sure you can, for those of you who've done this before, you'll probably have a good laugh here and there. But for those who haven't done it, I wish there would have been some more content available at the time before I did this to really study and learn. And there were some good videos that did help me out, give some good suggestions, but some other things that I didn't really know going into it. So that's what I want to address here today. So I've got the T18 open, and there were a lot of variations of T18s from this era that, from what I understand. One thing I want to point out is the reverse on this T18 is different than what I think the CJ T18s would have had. My reverse, I have here the top of the cover, transmission cover. The reverse arm is right here. It's part of the cover. If you read some of the manuals of the CJ7s at the time, the reverse is a separate lever that gets installed differently. You can see down there, there's your reverse, right? So I'll get into that more later, but basically for the J Series T18 that I'm working on, this model number, the reverse is part of the shifting is part of the cover. So I just wanted to point that out as one difference from some of the instructions that I've been using. I've been using instructions from a 77 CJ7 manual that I have. So that's one of the differences, how the reverse is set up. The other thing is a lot of the exploded diagrams aren't the quality of them isn't so good. So things like, I'll give you a good example, like this, I don't even know what this is called, but this goes between your 3rd and your 4th gear, right? I actually have this backwards, I'm pretty sure, from other videos I've seen. This little ridge should actually be pointing the other way. So I'm gonna have to take this apart again. That's why I say this will be the 3rd time I've taken this apart, because it seems to operate just fine, but I really wanna make sure this goes in exactly the way that it came out. And I wasn't paying attention when I took this out. And again, the diagram that I'm looking at isn't super clear. It's really hard to see. Maybe there's a better diagram. I've searched the web, I haven't seen anything clearer, but than other people's videos where this does appear to be flipped. But it fits in, and I don't know, there must be a reason why. I just don't know what the reason is. So the process I went through was we removed, of course, the old input shaft, we removed the bearing, removed the rear bearing. We pulled this whole unit out here and pulled this out as well, the old one, right? And there's some like roller bearings that go inside of this. Actually, you probably can see it in here. They're removed from here, but they just get set inside. There's like 20 something of them. That part's easy, put some grease on them, stick them in. So when I went to go put all this back together, Parts Mike sends you a new synchro to go here, okay? Along with the shaft and along with a bearing, which is right here. And the model number of this bearing, it's from Japan, it's 6308N. This is the bearing they give you. So really that's the big thing. You remove this part, remove the old bearing. I replaced this bearing on the back too. I don't know how old it was. And, put the new shaft in, and I go to push this bearing in. Well, what I had originally tried to do was use a press to press in both bearings, this bearing and this bearing. And, honestly, if you're working on one of these, you know how heavy this is. So that was really probably not the greatest idea. And if you read some of the manual that I'm reading from Jeep, it actually said to use some kind of, I forget exactly what it's called, but I actually ended up making one, I'll show you here, out of a piece of galvanized pipe and one of these flanges, where you can slide it over here, and you can tap it in with a hammer in the end. which doesn't work too great. Actually, what I saw online in one of the T18 videos was somebody warmed the bearing up in a stove. So I bought the bearing warmer 5000 here. This is $20 at Walmart, and it worked good. I was able to get the bearing up to 150 degrees. I tested it on the old bearing on the old shaft. I've since removed it, but I warmed this bearing up to 150 degrees in that $20 oven that I'm just going to leave in my shop, and it literally just fell right into place. So my plan is to do the same when I'm ready to install it here. But I'll tell you what happened. So the reason why this is apart is, like I said, before I went down this road, I went to go and press this bearing in and this bearing in, and I had the T18 on a press and sideways and all this. Well, what ended up happening was this synchro got misaligned. And what ended up happening was, as I was compressing it, it ended up, well, you can see the synchro here. You can see that there's these gouges. There's one there. There's one there. There's basically three of them, right? Because it wasn't lined up into these holes. These little guys right here. I don't know exactly what these are called, but. And if you notice, see this little hump? This should be on both sides. And all three of those are broken off. So what happened in the press was I broke those and it indented into the synchro. So it really destroyed the synchro parts Mike sent me. And these little guys that were in there, the stock ones, broke. And of course that fell into the transmission, so I had to clean, really clean this thoroughly. The other thing is, this is the other synchro that was there. This was the synchro here by third gear. So when I'm pushing all of this in with the press, it really compressed all of this together. I really don't think it was a good idea. And again, obviously did some damage. So I ended up ordering new synchros for third and fourth gear, replaced those. I noticed it was sticking a little bit on the third gear one when I was spinning it. It seemed like, see these little ridges in here? I don't notice any damage on this visibly, but it felt like it was damaged. This one now in there spins a little bit more freely than it did before. So new synchros ended up going in. On top of it, this bearing got damaged. I think some metal shavings actually got in. So this bearing has a really nasty sound to it when I spin. It's a brand new bearing, so it's unfortunate that I destroyed that in the process. And that's why this isn't installed yet, because I'm waiting for a new bearing to arrive. Local parts stores don't have this bearing handy, unfortunately. So just something to note. So anyways, I've reassembled a lot of this. I have to unassemble it and flip this. I'll do a little separate video on that if you're curious to see where these dogs go here and how these synchros go in and everything and how this goes in. I'll do a video on that so you can see the specifics. The other thing that was really a pain here is the first gear. I also took this off and I had no idea what I was doing. I took it off and there's 3 poppet springs and 3 poppet balls, they're called. Well, those flew right out of this thing and went all over the place when this came out. Getting those back in, well, finding them, first of all, was impossible. So I had to find and order 3 new ones. I found someone on eBay that had them. They were hard to track down because the part numbers in the old Jeep manuals didn't specify a part number for those. And those poppet springs are longer than the poppet spring. The poppet springs I was able to find were actually for this, and they're shorter. So they're different size than the poppet springs that are in here. The poppet balls were the same, but the springs were different size. And I don't know if I have any handy to show you the difference. I'd like to do that just so you can see it. Hold on, I've got some spares here. Yeah, so this was, okay, this is the poppet spring size that goes in the first gear. This is the poppet spring that I had ordered that goes into the shifting area. So they're not the same size. So I had to find this size. I found a guy on eBay who had them, thankfully. The poppet balls, which rest, these poppet balls rest on top of the spring. And there's 3 of them. Let's see if I can hold these together. There's 3 of them that rest, poppet ball rests on the spring on this cylindrically, right? So you have to compress. These springs are not, I mean, they're taut, right? You're not going to easily compress this with a ball on top of it. I don't care how much grease you put there. It's not going to stay in a cylinder form. I mean, I did all of this obviously with this out. There was another great video on YouTube, and I'll see if I can link it, if I can remember. He had a great idea where he used a hose clamp to kind of loosely get them all in place, tighten it with this, and then basically slide this first gear over it and whack it with a mallet. And this just ended up pushing this down, and it and it slid over the poppet springs and the poppet ball. So it actually worked really, really good. So I want to just credit him with a great idea there. So that's kind of where I am right now, right? This is set up and working really good. From what I can see, it looks fine. The reverse is going back and forth. If I use this here, you'll see that, see if I can get you in, it's hard to see, but I can shift the reverse down at the bottom here. That's all in place. If you watch me spin this, you'll see the synchros are working right there. They're changing. Right now I'm not in any particular gear. Actually, I think I'm in neutral. So everything's aligned. This needs to be switched around. I'll do a video on that, switching that around. But yeah, this is, like I said, going back to it, this is using the parts mic input shaft, removing the old input shaft from a J series truck, adapting this to a CJ7. The other thing I just want to mention too is this set of snap ring pliers. I'm borrowing these. For these really thick snap rings that you're gonna have to take a few of these out. These pliers here, they work really well for that. I've not seen these before at a parts store or at Home Depot, but these are actually, believe it or not, Craftsman, but I think these are pretty old. I don't know what they're called, but I'll just try to hold them steady so you can see. They work really well. They've got a lot of tension to them, and for these thicker snap rings, they're really good. So I just wanted to mention that because that helps making, removing these snap rings. Not a breeze, but it definitely aids in the process. So anyway, that's just an update on where I'm at. Like I said, the next step for me here is to remove this, flip it around, and then compress a new bearing in here, which I'm going to heat up in the bearing warmer 5000, and also known as a toaster oven from Walmart for 20 bucks. Let it get to about 150 degrees. This unit here, my garage is cold. It's probably about 50 degrees. I just use this little guy here. So, the casing is 48 degrees. If you get it about 100 degrees warmer, if you get the bearing about 100 degrees, 150 degrees, somewhere like that, warmer than this metal or this shaft, you're good to go. So you don't want to get the bearing to like 400 degrees, but if you get it to 100, 150 degrees, it takes about 10 minutes to do that in the toaster oven, and then you just slip it in. I didn't want to bring this to my house, and it would take too long, so that's why I got a toaster oven. And a bearing warmer that I've seen, those things can go for 500 bucks, so I figured a $20 toaster, let's give it a try, and if it works, we're good to go. So anyway, more to come, but I figured I would just let you know where I'm at, and if this helps you, if being able to see this and learn from my mistakes helps you, I hope it does. If anything I'm saying here is inaccurate, or if you have any other suggestions for me, let me know. Thanks for watching.